the Mighty Marvel Show. Look, it even tells you there. It's the Mighty Marvel Show. Branding. Anyway, I'm Paul, and I'm going to talk more Marvel Legends today because it is the release of one of my absolute favourite comic book Marvel villains of all time. Bit controversial. He's not everyone's favourite. He's a bit of a rip-off from a previous character, but I'm talking about the Hobgoblin because I have from Hasbro Pulse the new Hobgoblin retro figure from the Spider-Man retro wave. Comes with this wave, Shocker, Ben Reilly, awesome figure by the way. The Symbiote Spider-Man, unbelievable figure by the way. There's a video on this channel, you can see it floating around here somewhere. Tells you all about this figure. I love it. Hammerhead was a great figure as well. And then the armoured Spider-Man, the Mark 1 armour, which is pretty cool, but I'm not going to get that figure. The Hobgoblin. I'm all about the Hobgoblin as a character. Which Hobgoblin am I talking about? Well, I'm talking about this Hobgoblin. Look, original Secret Wars from the 1980s figure. Original figure. Man, if I'd have kept that in the box, it'd be worth a lot of money. And the Marvel Infinite Universe 3.75 figure released about 12-15 years ago as well. I just love these figures. I love the Hobgoblin. I killed the Hobgoblin. But which Hobgoblin do I love? Well, I'm an old school comic book fan. Let me just stand Hobgoblin up. There you go. I love the Ned Leeds version of Hobgoblin. So, back in the 1980s, Spider-Man series was ongoing saga of who is the Hobgoblin. And there was a whole rogue gallery of characters, suspects lined up, all that were somehow linked to Peter Parker's life. And it ended up at that stage after a huge reveal that had a fake Flash Thompson reveal as well. He was framed. The Hobgoblin was Ned Leeds, his colleague at the Daily Bugle, Peter Parker's colleague at the Daily Bugle, married to Betty Brant, or Betty Leeds, because he got married. So it became Ned Leeds Hobgoblin. An amazing run, an amazing reveal at the end of that series, which culminated over about 3-4 years worth of that character being introduced. Then Marvel went back to it a few years later and they came up with this convoluted story that Roderick Kingsley, who was a fashion entrepreneur, he was actually the Hobgoblin and he'd brainwashed Ned Leeds into believing he was the Hobgoblin. Sort of worked, but for me, I was always all about the Ned Leeds Hobgoblin. Then you had Roderick Kingsley, you had Jason McIntyre, who was the Jack-o'-lantern for a while. Of course, the controversy over the Hobgoblin comes from people saying he's a rip-off of the Green Goblin, which is obviously an all-time Spider-Man classic villain. But I always loved the Hobgoblin. It was really because it was from that real classic era. I thought there was more about him, actually more sort of goblin-y. There was a mystery about him as well as the character, about who he was, who was his identity. It's complete opposite to all the Norman Osborn. He's got amnesia, he hasn't got amnesia, he remembers Peter Parker, he doesn't remember Peter Parker. It was away from all that side of things. I just love that storyline, and I love the costume. It's a really cool costume. That orange costume with the ripped cape and the blue sort of scales on it. So I love the Hobgoblin. But do I love this figure? So let's take this figure out of the box and let's have a look. Okay, here is the Hobgoblin figure. Now, it's based on obviously the cartoon, the animated series version. So it's missing the scales that you had on the last Hobgoblin. That's an amazing figure, and I missed it. I'm so frustrated. I missed it. Cannot get that figure anywhere anymore. So sought after. So it doesn't have the scales on the figure. So you've got the orange. It's a reasonably cool face. It comes with a satchel. It comes with a goblin glider. Probably better if I had it the right way up. And it comes with a pumpkin bomb. And then the card is pretty cool. Obviously got the animated drawing from the series there. Same on the back. But do I love this figure? Do you know what? I don't. I find it really disappointing. Let me go over to me in the diorama room and we'll have a bit more of a look at this figure. Thanks from Paul in the studio. And here is the Hobgoblin. Now, these are the problems I have with this figure. The satchel. The satchel is purple. Okay, It should be brown. Now, come on. It's just a little bit of lazy colouring, I think. So I'll take the satchel off here. There we go. That's a purple. And those details good. Got some, sort of wear on it, and it's got the pattern inside, as you can see there. That's fine. But it's purple. Come on. Make it brown like it actually was. And as you saw then, I can slip that off underneath the character. So it does not sit well on his body. Now, I took his head off. So you can see from the head here. Let me take the head off. And the cape. And I sat the satchel up under one arm. Which I absolutely obviously can't do now. There you go. Over the neck. Sit the satchel. Cape back on, head back on, eventually. So I sat the satchel under his shoulder. But it doesn't sit there great. It's just slipping down all the time. And that's not great. It just sits on there rubbish. So once you get him posed and you try and get him set and try and do a pose, I spend half the time finding that once I've done that, the satchel falls down off him, which clearly it doesn't now, to completely not demonstrate my point. But trust me, this is what happens. So the satchel isn't great. Now, I don't mind we haven't got the scales on the costume, because I knew we're not getting that version. We're getting the animated version. I would love the other one, but I know we're not getting that. The face is okay. It's not too bad. I would have liked a second head where you could have had far more of the maniacal sort of shouting and screaming, so in the heat of the battle. This is just a sort of menacing, could be standing around with a group of villains, but there isn't really the shouting, screaming, fighting Hobgoblin face that I would have really liked. The manoeuvrability of the figure is okay. It's not too bad. The joints are quite good. It's reasonable movement. Obviously double elbows, double knees, ab crunch is reasonable, twist's okay. That's sort of fine. But this glider is rubbish. Again, based on the cartoon, so I understand that. It's got the purple look to it with eyes. Its detail's okay. It's not too bad at all. But it's not wide enough. And the feet of the goblin's boots, there's nothing designed on them for it to grip properly. So it really doesn't grip. And once you get the feet in, you are very limited in terms of the posing. Now, you can do the classic, let me sort of crouch him down, flying. There you go, prove my point. The satchel just falls off. So you can do the sort of outstretched feet. You'd have him in a very low pose as he swooped in across. But you then can't get the feet back in that position to hold the body. It just won't hold it. Now, when you try and do that and put him on a stand, as you can see here, there's no room for the feet to go all the way under. There's nothing for them to hook onto. This peg is quite a way back on the glider. So you've not got much foot left, as you can see there, to actually tuck under. So he falls off it all the time. It's not at a wide enough angle as you'd like to be, sort of like that, to have him stoop down low to fly in. So that's disappointing. Now, for the double disappointing, this pumpkin grenade. Now, there's the grenade. So it's okay. It's got the jack-o'-lantern, face on it, the maniacal face on it for that you throw the classic pumpkin bomb. That's fine. But it does not sit in the hands. It just simply won't balance. It just won't stay in. This hand, the finger and thumb aren't wide enough for it. It's not got enough of a grip to it. It will not rest in. Oh, there you go. So I've got it in now, completely ruining my point. But when you then start to put him on the glider and play around with the glider and then play around with the satchel, you start to find once you start moving, you start to adjust the hand. That just pops out of the hand. It doesn't really sit in there great. It definitely doesn't sit in his right hand. The left, obviously, I've just gone against what I just said there. Maybe I've had this figure a bit longer now. Maybe it's starting to get a bit more sort of pliable on the fingers to fit that in there. But overall, it is quite disappointing. Now, I was desperately looking forward to getting this so I could do some really cool poses with the black suit symbiote Spider-Man and the red and blue, the classic red and blue suit as well. Recreate some of those famous comic battles. I've done a few shots here, as you can see, of the character with my symbiote Spider-Man, but it's just not great for posing. It really isn't. It's so fiddly and so complicated. So I'm a bit disappointed by that. And it's probably more because I had the expectation of it being fantastic because I love this character. I probably overhyped it for myself. But in all honesty, this is probably a 5 out of 10 figure. And that's disappointing. The glider is not great. The feet grip into the glider is bad. The hand grip is not ideal. The satchel is rubbish. Could have done with a second head. And the pumpkin bomb doesn't sit in the hand. Other than that, I think it's great. So that is my sadly disappointing review of the Hobgoblin figure. Back to me in the studio, Paul. Thank you from the diorama room, Paul. Now, there you go. Not keen. Not a great figure. I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed. It's a first world problem. Sure, I get that. But I'm really disappointed in this figure. Yes, it'll go on Spider-Man Rogues Gallery. And yes, I'm going to have a proper look at my Spider-Man Rogues Gallery at some point and do a little video and hear about it as well, I imagine, because I've got quite a few characters. But this is not a great addition to that Rogues Gallery. I don't like this figure. And maybe it's a little bit more disappointment because I was so excited to get a Hobgoblin, to have access to a Hobgoblin figure because I missed the last one. But Hobgoblin is bad. And that is the end of this video. But I tell you what is not bad. Hopefully you'll think all my other videos on the channel. So have a look, give it a like, give it a subscribe, give it a share. Thanks so much. I'm off to go and chuck this Hobgoblin in the bin. Bye for now.